Hölgyek, urak, elkezdjük a következő előadást. Köszöntöm még egyszer önöket nagy tisztelettel, szeretettel itt a Ludovika Fesztivál szabadegyetemi programjának második napján, ahol ezúttal is a konnektivitás különböző fókuszpontjait járjuk majd körbe. Egy kis technikai információ, mielőtt színpadra szólítanám az előadót. Természetesen itt az előadás után, vagy a prezentáció után is lesz lehetősége a kérdéseket feltenni vendégünk, elnök úr számára. A kollégák mikrofonnal segítenek majd, úgyhogy szeretném önöket megkérni, hogy figyelmesen hallgassák majd az előadást, és fogalmazzák meg kérdéseiket a végén. És az előző csapat tapasztalatából okulva önöket kiemelten szeretném megkérni, hogy az előadás akkor ér véget, amikor az utolsó kérdésre is elhangzott a válasz. Az előadó megköszönte a jelenlétet és elhagyta a színpadot. Szeretném önöket megkérni, hogy csak ezt követően legyenek szívesek felállni és elhagyni a sátort, jó? Úgyhogy ne távozzunk úgy a sátorból, tiszteljük meg, elég messziről érkezett magasrangú előadóról van szó, tiszteljük őt meg azzal, hogy végighallgatjuk az előadását, végighallgatjuk a kérdésekre adott válaszait, és ezt követően hagyjuk el a sátrat, jó? Úgyhogy köszönöm szépen együttműködésüket és megértésüket. Szóval konnektivitás, mint az egyik legfontosabb témája a Ludovika Fesztivál idei szabadegyetemi programjának, egy egészen különleges kapcsolódási pontról hallunk most a következő 3-4 órában, mégpedig Ukrajna és Japán kapcsolatáról. Miért számít Ukrajna Japánnak? Biztonsági érdekek, konnektivitása Európa és Japán között. Hölgyeim és uraim, fogadják szeretettel a színpadon dr. Kubi Fumiaki urat, a Nemzeti Védelmi Akadémia elnökét Japánból. Mr. Fumiaki, the floor is yours.
Hello. Thank you very much for the very kind introduction. Thank you for your invitation. It is my utmost honor to be here in Budapest, invited by a very prestigious institution, Ludovika University of Free Public Service. This is my first visit of Hungary. Therefore, everything here is new and fresh to me. I belong to the National Defense Academy of Japan. Ours is a tri-service military academy, which means we are integrated academy of air, sea, and ground self-defense forces of Japan. There are similarities and differences between Ludovika and our institution, but I'm hopeful that our exchanges will grow further from this kind of invitation to us. Before my talk, please understand that the views expressed here are my own and are not representing the organization that I belong to. After touching down Budapest 3 days ago, I suddenly recall one Hungarian man who helped me, my family, and many international students in 1984 at Cornell University, located in the state of New York in the United States. His name is Steve Jalso. I'm not sure that name makes sense to you or not, but that was his American name. He worked for the International Student Office of Cornell and helped newly arrived international students settle down by taking us to the used furniture shop, or by helping, explaining how to buy the auto insurance. He suspected that my English is not good enough. He painted car and deer to explain that there's no insurance payment if my car collides with a deer. So he was so kind. And a few days of meeting, we came to know that he left Hungary after 1956. You know what that means. He was so kind that there's even a thank you party by foreign students for him. So today, I will talk remembering Steve Jalso and his kindness 41 years ago. I will talk under the title of Why Ukraine Matters for Japan, which might be a bit unusual or unexpected theme for a talk by someone from Asia. But I hope that this topic will serve as an example of how Japan looks at the current international situation. For Japan, after 1945, a rule-based international order is of paramount importance. This order means that even if you do not like the current national borders, you should not try to change it by force unilaterally. This principle or norm has never been accepted unanimously by the international community, but it had some currency since 1945, especially in the 1990s. However, since the beginning of the 21st century, especially since early 2010s, this order has been undermined by following factors: China's change, Russia's action, and North Korea's nuclear and missile development, particularly from Japan's perspective. Perhaps at this moment, even more important, serious, and concerning is the inward-looking tendency of the United States, which is becoming evident since Donald Trump got elected president in 2016. It is the United States that has supported the rule-based international order since 1945 by bearing much of the burden financially or in terms of human resources. While the United States seems to abandon much of its role to support the international order now, Japan is wondering if Japan, by working with like-minded countries, mostly in Europe and Asia, can support the order. Please take a look at this slide. This is the amount of the aid, accumulated amount given to Ukraine on a country basis. Japan ranks 5th in aiding Ukraine in financial terms. This ranking must be pretty impressive as a country that is far away from Ukraine, far away from Hungary, but far away from Ukraine, located in Asia, and not a member of NATO or EU. Why, then, does Ukraine matter for Japan this much? First, Russia's invasion of Ukraine is clearly a blatant violation of the principle of the rule-based international order. Therefore, Russia must be punished. Second, we believe that China and other countries should not or must not take a wrong lesson from this invasion. Our concern is that if Russia's invasion of Ukraine is accepted, so would China's military action against Taiwan or its neighbor be. This is a nightmare scenario. By the way, though the Ukraine is very distant from Japan, as I said, we have a couple of things in common. Ukraine and Japan both have Russia as their neighbor. Ukraine and Japan both have territories illegally occupied by Russia. Ukraine and Japan both aspire to live under the rule-based international order. And this is how Japan has responded to the Ukrainian crisis. First, pretty strong sanction against Russia. Our relations with Russia were not particularly bad even after 2014 when Russia annexed Crimea. So the change after 2022 is pretty dramatic. Second, no lethal weapon transfer to Ukraine due to legal and constitutional constraints within Japan. And third, no military aid, but fairly a lot, like financial assistance, assistance to the displaced Ukrainians in Japan, or mine clearing assistance. These are some of the photos illustrating what Japan has done. Prime Minister Kishida actually visited Ukraine in March 2023. Japan has some experience with landmine removal activities because it did it in Cambodia since 1990s, which is why we do it in partnership with Cambodia. And there are some other activities Japan has been doing. The reason Japan is not giving the lethal weapon to Ukraine is Japan's pacifism. So I touch upon the Japan's pacifism here. As I said, Japan's contribution to Ukraine is limited to mostly a civilian area. Some of you may know that Japan's defense budget was just 1% of its GDP until recently. The major reason for these very cautious approaches to national security is this constitutional clause, the Article 9. It says that land, sea, and air forces, as well as other war potential, will never be maintained. In fact, in spite of this, the articles, we started to have the self-defense forces in 1954, and the Supreme Court has never said that Japan cannot have its own military if it is minimum amount of the military. And still, some of Japanese still insist that the self-defense forces are against the Constitution. The entire politics and culture on defense in Japan are very cautious for many years, which is now finally being changed, at least partially, especially since 2023, we are trying to double our defense budget in a 5-year plan. Here, I want you to take a little bit broader perspective on the big change before, since 1945, and in the recent time. This slide is created so that you can get a sense of how a dramatic change took place in East Asia over the past 80 years, with Japan being an empire before 1945 to an almost totally pacifist country, now in the process of change for more proactive actor in the international community. Until 1945, Japan's military power was overwhelming in the region in East Asia. It used to be an empire, as you used to be. Many of the leaders in the US, UK, and China at that time thought that if they take out the Japanese military power, there will be peace. After 1945, Japan suddenly became a very pacifist country while hosting United States military even after its independence. And now it finds itself in the most severe and complex security environment of the post-war era. Now we are trying to strengthen our defense capabilities, but we are not sure that our measures are enough to deter some other countries from doing something harmful to us. Then comes Mr. Trump, who criticized the US-Japan alliance many times, even threatening to discard it. As an alternative, we are now first investing more in self-defense, and second, we are increasing our partners, mostly in Europe and Asia. The next 5 slides will show you the examples of the most severe and complicated security environment of the post-war area, using the words and phrases in the annual defense white paper. This is China's announced defense budget. This is announced defense budget. The actual amount might be higher. Japan's defense budget was the blue in the the right-hand side corner, and almost flat or even decreased early in this century. But China just increased their defense budget. The Senkaku Islands are not well known probably in this area. These are islands, Japan's islands, located in East China Sea between Japan and China and close to Taiwan. Japan believes that the Senkaku Islands belong to Japan, but China started to lay claim to these islands around 1970. Now enters Japan's territorial waters very often, as is shown here. This is one of the worst examples of dangerous unilateral action to change the status quo by force or by threat of force. And this is the military balance in East Asia, which shows a tremendous advantage that China now maintains. Taiwan is also threatened. You see Japanese forces and the US forces and the Korean forces combined. We are not necessarily superior. And recently, we also observe increasing number of joint drills between China and Russia, which is also threatening to Japan. Then you have North Korea. Many of their actions are against the resolutions by the United Nations. Just the day before yesterday, they launched a ballistic missile. Now, I would like to touch upon a very unique nature of US-Japan alliance, which I characterize as asymmetric in terms of rights and obligations of each party. Under Mr. Trump, this has become a fresh issue between Japan and the United States. The first treaty was one-sided because the United States did not accept any obligations, while Japan did, which was to let the United States use military bases in Japan. And the first treaty was signed in 1951 and became effective 1952. Japan had a lot of complaints. Then there appeared the second revised treaty, which was revised in 1960. The revised treaty of 1960 became reciprocal, with the US now accepting the obligation to defend Japan. So I'm talking about asymmetry, not in terms of military power or economic power, but the rights, in terms of the rights and obligation of the party. You see, in the world history, there are many alliances that normally, if country A is attacked, country B would help. If country B is attacked, country A will help. That's the kind of the basic alliance arrangement. And this is simple and easy to understand. But the US-Japan alliance has a very different legal obligation, legal structure. Sorry. As you see on this slide, Japan is not obligated to defend the United States, even if the United States itself is attacked. However, Japan is obligated to let the United States use the military bases in Japan, not just to defend Japan, but also for the maintenance of international peace and security in the Far East. Now, compared with other alliances, in the US-South Korea, US-Korea alliance, both countries promised to defend each other. In NATO, member countries, as you know, promised to defend each other. But in US-Japan alliance, that is not the case. Why did the United States accept an alliance that the alliance partner did not incur any obligation to defend the United States? Well, in 1951, there's no military in Japan at the insistence of Americans. There's no military to defend the United States. From 1945 to 54. As you see, the legal structure of US-Japan alliance is complicated, which suggests that Mr. Trump would have difficulty understanding it. This explains the same thing, just the illustration of the legal structure of the Japan-United States alliance mechanism. What the United States want to get from this alliance? They want to use the military bases in Japan to defend South Korea. The Korean War started in 1950, and they wanted to keep using the military bases in Japan even after Japan became an independent country. Bases in Japan were critically important for the US leaders, such as President Harry Truman at that time. But this is an important point. We are not sure that that is still the case in the same degree and in the same manner under Mr. Trump. For Truman, this was critically important national interest for the United States. But for Mr. Trump, he may have no interest. And there are some weaknesses in this alliance coming from this asymmetric structure. These are the list of the weaknesses. There are many weaknesses. The most serious one might be at the top. It's complicated. It's hard to understand, especially for ordinary people. But I'm sure that Mr. Trump also may have a difficulty understanding this complicated structure. On the other hand, this is also important. There are also strengths originating from this asymmetric legal structure, most important of which is strong and credible deterrence, simply because the United States military stays in Japan, there in Japan. Japan does not have to worry about whether US forces are coming from California or Hawaii. It's here in Japan, it's in Yokosuka or Yokota. And it is a pillar of the regional security architecture. It also helped Japan in major natural disaster. As I said, this is a pillar of the regional security architecture. The United States can project its military power in Asia because of the military bases in Japan. Especially Yokosuka plays a very important part because US 7th Fleet is home-ported in Yokosuka. By the way, Yokosuka is also our town where the National Defense Academy of Japan is located. And this is one example of American soldiers helping Japanese after great tsunami and earthquake of 2011. Now, Japan has done many things to make this asymmetric alliance in terms of the rights and obligation to be more symmetric. This slide shows recent significant changes in Japan's security policy, which is also, as I said, an effort on the part of Japan to make the alliance more symmetric. The constitutional reinterpretation of 2015 on the right to collective self-defense was particularly important because now Japan can fight for the United States alongside with the United States in certain situations, especially in nearby Japan area. This asymmetric structure of alliance becomes a serious problem when Mr. Trump becomes president, because he keeps saying that the US-Japan alliance is unfair. For him, allies are even worse than normal other regular countries because allies cheat the United States and make money from the United States while depending on the United States for defense. Of course, for Japan and many other countries in the world, United States unilateral sanctions as tariff or its obsession with trade deficit is a serious problem. But then comes more serious problem for Japan. Next question is, how would you deal with Trump's America? Facing Trump's America, some countries retaliated. Japan has not. This is because Japan thinks that it is not smart for it to do so. Japan is in a serious national security situation, threatened by some countries, and Japan believes that it still needs the United States for its defense. So Japan is now in negotiation with the United States on tariffs. Japan hopes that it can persuade Trump top officials to understand Japan's value and the importance of US-Japan alliance, especially to deter China. This graph, this slide, well illustrates that recently the Republican Party of the United States has become isolationist very fast under Mr. Trump. This might be a long-term trend that Japan has to keep in mind. A positive aspect is that the Democrats have become less isolationist. But anyway, you know, we have to, this graph illustrates that we have to think in long term too. At the same time, Japan is starting to think about so-called Plan B. That is, how would Japan defend itself possibly without the alliance with the United States? Obviously, the first alternative is more self-defense, more self-reliance. Second one is having more partners and quasi-allies. Japan has started to both already. Japan has provided Coast Guard ships or radars to the Philippines or Vietnam as assistance for the defense capacity building of respective country. So, and we are having more joint drills with some of the European countries like UK, Germany, France. And these are the example of Japan's effort in trading system. Of course, trading system is international trade is less important than international security, but you know, this is also important area that Japan can play a role. And I hope you know the CPTPP, which means a comprehensive and progressive agreement on Trans-Pacific Partnership. This is a free trading agreement. What is important for you is that now the UK is a member of CPTPP. So it's not just a Pacific area, Asian area. Some of the EU countries are thinking about following the UK. Japan tried to institutionalize a free trading system by helping launch this CPTPP and by concluding the EU-Japan EPA, which stands for Economic Partnership Agreement. This is Japan, EU, EPA, and Hungary is, of course, a member. This graph well illustrates so through this EPA, Japan and Hungary are, you know, connected through this the trade agreement. And especially important for Japan is to strengthen the relation with NATO. To deepen and strengthen the relation with the NATO is pressing challenge for Japan, given the interconnectivity of national security interests between Europe, and Japan. Japan is treated by NATO as so-called one of the IP4 in Pacific 4, along with Australia, New Zealand, and South Korea. The relations are already shifting from dialogue to cooperation, such as in maritime security and next generation technologies. Recently, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte visited Japan. This happens pretty often these days. And it was a fruitful visit. This was one newspaper clip about the visit of the NATO Secretary General. And what he said of Japan was very positive. So these are the most recent illustrations that the NATO and Japan are having the same kind of perspective on international security. So I will be closing pretty soon. People tend to say that the US-UK alliance is a natural alliance. This might be true. Compared with that, what about US-Japan alliance? Is this a unnatural alliance? Japan and United States or Japanese or Americans are very different in race, ethnicity, religion, geographically far apart. Both countries once had a terrible war, but now we are good allies. It's even pretty rare in history. We have a record of 73 years cooperation. This might be the longest alliance in history. Now Japan can help the United States even better because of some of the measures taken recently, including the constitutional reinterpretation on Article 9. So it was working pretty well. We could have celebrated the evolution and accomplishment of this alliance. Then Mr. Trump became president, and suddenly we are facing a kind of crisis. We might be at the juncture of history. It is undeniable that we are in a tough situation. China's economic and military power will increase even further, while the United States might be leaving from the theater of international security politics. But there are signs that make it possible for us to be a little bit optimistic. The United States might be back as an active actor again. No one can predict the results of the presidential election in 2028. Trumpism is not a solid consensus in the United States yet. If many European countries, as well as Japan and other Asian countries, cooperate further, we might be able to deter China at the same time as to maintain rule of law in international order. Even China might not be omnipotent, and there do exist symptoms of serious economic malaise, stagnation, and instability. So while doing every kind of homework that we have to do, we should be reasonably optimistic about the future of the rule-based international order. I hope Japan can and Hungary can work together for it. I'm aware that what I said is not necessarily in line with Hungarian government policy, but I just spoke my mind, expressing appreciation for my hero 41 years ago, Steve Jalso, going through despair after 1956 and struggling to launch a new life in the United States. Steve Jalso, as I met him, was still an optimistic person after all. Thank you very much for listening. So, if there's a question, I'll be happy to take. But if no question, no. Oh. Oh, okay, yes.
Question?
Then, thank you very much. Oh, you have a question? Please. How is it organized? Is a microphone there? Oh, on tariffs? That question was if the negotiation with the United States on tariffs failed, what Japan would do, right? Military negotiation, yeah. And well, it is probably improbable for Japan to take an initiative to break the alliance, but the United States side, especially Trump, might be angry at Japan's, attitude not to compromise, and he might say that let's scuttle the U.S.-Japan alliance. But that would be a very kind of extreme scenario, not in the distance, not in the kind of short term. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much.